I'm Leah with the Southern Cleaner and Wife. Thank you for stopping by, and today's video is going to be different than some of the previous videos that I do. I do a lot of cleaning content on this channel currently, and if you like that kind of stuff, subscribe or consider subscribing. I'd love to have you to be a part of this YouTube community that is building. So let's get to what I want to talk about. So I am going to read out of the Bible this day. This is Ecclesiastes chapter 3. It's a very well-known verse, but I'm going to read it. To everything there is a season, and a time to every purpose under heaven, a time to be born, a time to die, a time to plant, a time to pluck that which is planted, a time to kill, a time to heal, a time to break down, and a time to build up, a time to weep, and a time to laugh, a time to mourn, and a time to dance, a time to cast away stones, a time to gather stones together, a time to embrace, and a time to refrain from embracing, a time to get and a time to lose, a time to keep and a time to cast away, a time to rent and a time to sow, a time to keep silent and a time to speak, a time to love and a time to hate, a time of war and a time of peace. What profit he that have worketh and wherein he laboreth? And that is as far as I'm going to read in this part of the Bible. I wanted to start this off with this because change is coming to my channel. Change is coming to my life. It's going to be different than I ever would have imagined it going. I've always wanted to be a mom, and I've always wanted to stay at home and be at home with my kids. That has ultimately always been my dream, and I'm living it, and it's hard to explain. Like, my emotions are at a crazy peak right now where they're crazy, and it's just this time in my life, and I guess it's being a mom and being needed so much, I'm assuming. You know, but with that being said, change is coming as far as in my life. There's been so much change that's been happening. For those who don't know, my father-in-law actually passed away in 2020. He passed away in 2020, and it was the very beginning. It was very interesting. The time was very hard for his family. It was very hard for us, my children, like seeing them grieve as they missed their granddad, and as they wanted, like, still to this day when we go to the city, to the place where he's at, or where he was kept, the hospital he went to, they want to stop by and they want to go in and go see him, and it's hard to explain to them he's not there no more. And so then they're like, well, can we go see these other people? And it was just the time of COVID, and therefore they couldn't go and go see the nurses that were previously taking care of their granddad, because they had ended up developing a relationship with some of them and they just fell in love with them. But it was just the time of COVID, and that whole hospital, everything kind of shifted their requirements for go in and all this kind of stuff, and so therefore we never do any of that. But they still, like, my youngest girl, she is 2 or 3. She's 3. She wants to go and visit her granddaddy still, and she still remembers that hospital. She remembers being there and spending time with him there, even though he's not there anymore. So, that being said, it's like, that's a season of life. That was a time to weep and a time to cry. Things have changed in our lives that affected that. Now, to say things haven't shifted here, it haven't really shifted here a ton, But as far as for my mother-in-law, who became a widow, things started shifting for her because she was always a stay-at-home mom. And then all of a sudden, you know, it's not all of a sudden, but her husband passes away. And then she's no longer a stay-at-home wife or a stay-at-home mom. She has to figure out what to do with her life. Like, how is she going to make ends meet? How is she going to pay her bills? And because at this point she hasn't had a job in years, and live out in the country, so there isn't a ton of opportunity for jobs. You have to drive to get to jobs, and a lot of times our driving time is going to cost us money, and that'll be money getting there, and by the time you pay for all the gas and stuff, you won't have enough to live off of in some scenarios and in some cases. So she wouldn't be able to necessarily go to the city and work, for that being said. So there's a lot going on, and there's a lot of moving parts we're trying to help things do, and I think it's going to be a fun season of life coming. It's going to be a different season of life, and with that being said, like, seeing my mother-in-law go through this, if something were to happen to my husband, what would I do, has crept into my mind, and it has made me, I have 4 little ones. I would have to go find a job, but because I don't have any higher education than what I have, I'm afraid I won't be able to get anywhere. I won't get no traction anywhere as far as being able to do a lot of things, but I can do other things. I love to bake, and I love to do jams and stuff, but like I said, we're in the country, so a lot of people ain't necessarily going to be driving to the country to get a jam, to get a jar jam. A lot of people ain't going to be asking me to bake a cake because we're so far away from the city. A lot of times they could just get somebody in the city to bake a cake versus somebody out here. So those are kind of like things that are harder to do and to deal with, but because of it has opened my eyes more to see how my mother-in-law is faring after passing of her husband. Like me, we're never promised tomorrow. We're never promised our next breath, and so anything could happen to my husband in these next, who knows? Life happens, and it's scary. It is scary to think, because what would I do? And what would, how would I fare? And how, even if I am my mother-in-law's age, what would I do? Because my kids would be, at that point, at her age, my kids would be out of the house, but then what would I do, what if life isn't what I planned it to be? Like, you plan to grow old together, and then all of a sudden, growing old together, you're not right as long as growing old together as you would like, because the Lord has allowed a lot of these days. And so there's a lot of wheels churning and going there. Like, I remember talking to my husband and thinking, I'm at the point in life that I wanted to be at. This is the point that I've always dreamed about. I've always wanted to be a mom and to stay at home. This is it. But now, what happened afterwards? After my kids grew out of the house, what would I do? Because this stage of life would have passed me, but I want to be available for my kids and be able to be a part of them, but then I can't be a part of them all the, they're not going to be, some of them might be moved away, further away, and not be able to be there and help them with their kids, or help them with whatever. I may not be able to do that. And I am a pastor's wife, so there is a lot of, as the church grows, you have to go and take care of, fix meals and different little things like that, which then I could take time and go sit with older people, and I could take time and go do do these other things that would help fill in my gaps as a pastor's wife. But if my husband wasn't there to help the bills come in, then what would I do? You know, would I go, I would have to get a job. Would I, you know, all these questions. And that's where we leave it all in God's hands. And I trust God. And I know He has a plan and He has a purpose. And He has a perfect will for us. And I want to be in His perfect will. And I want others to see Christ in me. And so that is ultimately like what I want to do. And as life goes on, you know, if you never prepare for the rainy days, then when the rain starts happening, nothing's going to grow. And so that's something that I'm hoping as time goes by. That's as much as I can talk about right now, because everything is in thought processes and we're not officially going anywhere yet, but it will be a change coming up this year to my channel. Like, I know previously I did a video with my day in the life. Right now it's going to start changing. My day in the life will look different, and hopefully y'all will stay around and still get some motivation, but it might be a little bit different motivation. So yeah, whenever the appropriate time for me to release this video will come, and when it does, it will be out for y'all to see. So bye for now.